Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the BB-Scho. As always, I'm your host, Beebs. I'm here with my co-host, Chen. Unfortunately, we had something came up for Luke. He's usually here with us for NBA Tuesday, but it'll be just us this week. So we will be most likely having a guest on our Friday episode this week, or our Week 617 preview. So we'll be able to make it up to you guys in that way. But yeah, we're here for NBA Tuesday. Chen, I mean, I guess I'll start off with this, man. How you doing? How are you holding up? I know, just were recording yesterday, but in terms of basketball, what's your outlook and how you been?
Oh, I know. It's good, time of the year. So been doing all right. In terms of basketball, look, it's a whole lot. When you look at the standings over in the East, it's as what many would predict. Celtics are up there, Bucks, Nets, Cavs, Sixers. I mean, it's no shockers really. The Heat are back into somewhat relevance. They're at 500. After getting off to a rough start. But there's really no doubt for me in that aspect. It is tough though to see the Bulls still kind of struggling at 12. I know this team is better than what they show. They're just kind of like actually a piece or two away. I know a lot of teams will say that and whatever, but it's like I think with Lonzo Ball back, that really would change a lot of things. I think right now they have a lot of score first guards, and having Lonzo be that it really just improved Caruso because Caruso's not bad, but he's also not, 6'6", athletically gifted. I mean, Lonzo Ball was a number 2 pick. We can't forget that. I think his
Yeah,
value is definitely severely underrated because when he's on the court, he's very good. It's unfortunately, and he's way earlier in his career than Anthony Davis, but he's the Anthony Day to Day Davis point guard edition. It sucks to say it, but no, that's just kind of where the Bulls sit.
I think. I
And
mean, we
I
talked
want your
about. Go ahead.
no, go
I was
ahead.
just gonna say we talked about the Bulls and we both agreed to blow it up. So go ahead.
No, yeah, that's a fair assessment. Yeah, it's in sync, man. The go ahead and stops. Anyway, Nets wanted to touch on that because I know we had him pretty, not necessarily even, but in the ballpark of like this team could contend, but we're unsure of the fit with Ben Simmons, with really just lack of personnel around the duo of Kyrie and KD. But they look pretty legit as of late. I think it helps having a coach that I'm not gonna say like he earned the job. Well, that is kind of what it is, though. I mean, I hate to be that guy, but I really think Nash got that job based off reputation, and I think Jackie Vaughn, I believe is the name, has been a coach, has been under coaches for a long time. I understand he doesn't have the player experience, but nonetheless, he's doing a way better job than what Steve Nash had going for this group. I mean, they do not look like a team that's going to get swept by the Celtics. Um, Even with their team
Yeah, I
being, in
mean,
my opinion, a little bit worse than last year.
I'm gonna be brutally honest. The Nets are really good in the regular season right now, but I think I've seen enough over the years. I don't know if I trust KD to lead his team to a championship on his own. That might sound
Hasn't
harsh,
happened,
and that would be a
but it hasn't
legacy.
happened.
That would be a legacy defining moment. Just like Curry getting one after KD left is in 20 years going to be talked about as well. That was pretty impressive, right? The same way we
It's
talk
already
about
talked
Kobe,
about, yeah.
the same way we talk about Kobe, right? Like that means a lot for the legacy. If KD were to do that, I think that would be, you know, pretty well established, especially for a guy that has a much worse reputation than Steph Curry does when it comes to needing
Oh,
help.
for sure.
So,
Yeah.
but I don't know if I buy it. They've won 9 straight, 9-1 in the last 10. I'm just going to be honest. I think they're a great team, but I put Kyrie in that same vein of player a little bit, where they weren't able to get it done on their own, and you put them together, maybe it'll happen. But the reality of the situation is I don't see them beating Boston in a 7-game series, and I don't see them beating Milwaukee. And
Hmm.
you're going to have to beat one of them, if not both, to get out of the East, right? They could probably beat anybody else. They could also lose to anybody else, whereas I wouldn't say that about the other two. right?
The Sixers would entertain me. I don't like the idea of Embiid going in that like that. I
I think
don't
the
see who
Sixers could.
covers him.
I don't think. Yeah. So you're saying the Sixers match up well against the Nets?
Right, right.
Yeah. And I'm just gonna be honest. I could see a team that has depth like the Cavs just having their bench win that series for them because the Nets really lack off the bench. So while the Nets may have the more star power, that's you would know as well as I do. That's not always the answer to winning games. So
Right.
if the Nets are really going to be this 3, 4, top 5 seed, top 4 seed in the East, I could see them getting knocked off by a decent amount of teams that will fall under them. The Cavs and the Sixers are probably the main two, but the Heat are going to play tough in the playoffs, regardless of where they're at right now in the standings. And just a strong defensive team could put this team to rest. I may sound like an idiot when I bring up a team like the Heat, but I'm just not bought in. I guess is what I'm getting at. And so, yeah, that's my take on the
Fair
Nets.
take.
I just
Yeah.
the bottom line is I think they could beat anybody. I don't think they could beat Milwaukee or Boston.
No, yeah, I'm with you there. I don't really have a whole lot else to add. I think they're like a trade deadline move might help them, but it's hard to build up the depth that a lot of these other contenders have. And I think they're really honestly just good right now because Kyrie and KD are healthy. Like they're both historically amazing regular season players. But to your point, when Kyrie was on his own in Boston, things didn't go very well. Some may argue part of it wasn't his fault, but he was, we'll call it the bus driver, at that time. Jason Tatum was on the team, but he was still a rookie, I believe. And even KD with the Thunder days, it's like Russ was still, he was Russ. He was getting into, obviously not the MVP, but he was a very good player. Harden was developing, and I don't know. I just, they lack for me defensive capability. As much as I like to not brush that off, but I definitely don't value it as much as you do. I think at times
Yeah,
just
they're
better
not
offense
they
is
are
just unguardable. Like
unquestionably not a better defending team than the Celtics, Bucks, Cavs, or Heat, in my opinion.
I would say, the Heat immediately come to mind. Like that would be a sleeper team that shouldn't give them problems on paper, but I feel like just would.
Yeah.
I feel like Spoelstra would draw up a game
Well,
plan to just
yeah.
trap KD, and if Kyrie shoots bad, all of a sudden this team is getting blown out.
Yeah.
So they are going to look fine now. I just do still have my concerns in the playoffs. They're not going to get swept in round one, but I also don't think they're contenders. I would say they're a solid playoff team, but I would be shocked actually if this is the team that represents the East. That's my take.
I have a question.
Yeah.
To move on. We'll talk a little Western Conference. At what point do we actually start getting concerned about Golden State?
The point, really honestly, and it would be if they had the Lakers record right now, and they didn't have Steph. I
Steph's
understand they're in them
out.
right now. Right, right. Like if that scenario was just the same it is, but like still don't have Steph, are in that spot, I'd be a little more concerned. They're 2 games back from 500. They're still, in the play-in. They're gonna get better, and they got the time to do.
I'll
so.
tell you what one team doesn't want to happen is the Warriors to hang around like the 7 or 8 or even the 6, and then you end up having to play them as the high seed. I know you get
Yeah,
the home court advantage, but if the Grizzlies play the Warriors as the 3 seed and the Warriors get up to the 6 or something, that's just got to be honest.
it'd be entertaining. That'd be really
And
entertaining.
there's a budding rivalry there as well. So,
Yeah.
And there's a few teams that are still in the hunt in the West that I'm not fully sold on. The Jazz being the top of the. I mean, the Jazz are 3 games ahead of the Warriors right now, and I'm not bought in on the Jazz, man. They were supposed to be in the Wembanyama street sweepstakes. So, same thing for the Kings. Just going to be brutally honest. I think the Kings have a much brighter future, but I don't know if they're there yet.
I think they got the regular
definitely
team to be.
They're
okay.
definitely better than the Jazz, in my opinion. But the Blazers are right where I thought they'd be, hanging around the 8s, 6 to 10 seed range, or right in the middle. at the 8. I expect them to finish right in the play-in and then make the playoffs because of Dame, like I said. But yeah, the Warriors are starting to concern me because Steph being injured. Um, but hopefully they can use this as a chance to figure out, they've won 3 out of their last 10. Not great. They won on
They beat the
Christmas, I
Warriors on
believe.
Christmas Day, though.
Yeah,
Yeah, and it was,
yeah,
or they beat the Grizzlies. I'm sorry. Yeah,
yeah. And I do remember, I'm not, I don't recall, or I don't forget them just embarrassing the Celtics not too long
that is true.
ago. And,
That is
so
true.
this team is very capable of beating anybody. And I think that they're just maybe a role player or two away. So if they want to make a deal, I don't know if they will mid-season. I don't know, but it would be an interesting discussion as we approach the trade deadline. If they remain in this bottom of the playoff seeding, they make a deal for some depth, maybe trade away Wiseman for 2 or 3
I'd
role players
love
or
if they
something.
moved Wiseman. Oh, I would love it.
Maybe you trade Wiseman for a guy like Buddy Hield. Maybe you trade, I don't, just somebody who's going to be a scorer off the bench, or really, they really need more defense. If you ask me, that's where they're struggling comparative to last year, losing Gary Payton and losing Damian Lee. Just these role playing guys. Dante DiVincenzo, love the guy, but he's not. I guess I'm not gonna say he's having a bad year, but he's not what they need, in my opinion. They need just a little bit more, and they need some of their young guys to step it up. I think that's really the biggest issue. Is they're waiting on these guys to put it together, and they're not.
That's a fair take. I think they would benefit from having, I don't know, Iggy's old, but like him or Otto Porter even was a lot better than I think people remember. Like he
Yeah,
started a couple games in that finals run. Um, Forwards and front court depth, honestly. And the fact we're like, well, trade away Wiseman, yeah, like he's a center. You'd think that'd be the most
he's
best
just
option. He's just not ready to play
yeah,
yet, or he just may not be good.
the reality is I think right now he's becoming more of a project than people anticipated, and the Warriors are not able to afford that as much as we
No,
might have thought. Does that make sense?
Steph's turning like 35. It's easy. I believe he's 34 right now.
Until Steph starts to show signs of slowing down, I'm going to believe that he's able to
He's got a
keep himself
couple years
together.
left, but I definitely would say it's win now, not project mode. You don't need Wiseman in his prime when Steph's 40.
Yeah, but if you have Steph coming off the bench and Jordan Poole replacing Steph, I mean, I still see the original vision, right?
Yeah, the
Was
vision's there.
the original vision to extend the dominance past the Steph, Clay, Draymond, years.
Right.
The vision was there. They are right now, honestly, they're just looking for defensive depth. In my opinion, that's the number one priority. So if it comes to making a deal and Wiseman is still struggling, and you can get value, a couple guys back who are going to be good contributors,
Yeah.
that's as far as, I mean, that's going to take them to a championship. I think they'll take that, right? So,
Right.
but I do wonder if we get towards the All-Star break and they're still hovering around. I don't know, man. I might start to. I'm in your boat right now in terms of, yeah, they're fine, but I don't know. We are getting close to that tick-tock. The clock is ticking, I guess, in the season.
Yeah. Reevaluate at the All-Star break is really what I have to say. They're still like kind of at this point in the standings.
I mean,
at
I'm
All-Star
always,
break.
you got to remember too what the Celtics did last year after the All-Star break. They
Yeah,
lost like 4 games, I swear.
that's fair. That's a fair take.
So I do have another
Yeah.
question. Not really a question, just a statement regarding the West. I'm like fully bought in on the Nuggets right now, man. Like they're becoming my favorite. And I thought this was like a low key take, but as I'm looking at the standings, they're literally the number 1 seed. So I don't know if it is, but I was just kind
Yeah,
of like,
this is a team healthy is really good. I mean, Michael Porter Jr. was selected 15th because of his back issue. Like when he's playing, he's really good. He was like the number 1 recruit at one point.
yeah,
He's a 6'10" forward that can handle. And then you got Jamal Murray back, who they didn't even have last year at all. And if he just, I think he's still playing really well, but he has yet to even reach when we last saw him. Like in the bubble, he was nuts. He's going
well,
toe to toe with Donovan Mitchell. And if you get a guy that's close to that on top of Jokic, Mike Porter Jr., Aaron Gordon has been playing very well, even if you don't like him as much as an
Love
offensive
that move.
guy.
I'm starting to love that move, man.
Yeah,
I
he
really
is
am.
just
Such a good trade in hindsight. Like,
fits that
people,
team so well.
yeah, that's
They
just the
need a
bottom
guy
line.
that's going to score. You get so many points from that three-headed monster alone. You can
Yeah,
have
they
a
need the lob catcher,
KCP,
need the lob
right?
catcher
Yeah,
and the interior defense, and that's exactly what he's providing on
yeah.
a elite level, in my opinion.
It's a very balanced roster, like probably one of the more balanced ones in the NBA.
Yeah,
They
and
can
that's
have a big
why
lineup, a
that's why I
small one.
like
It's
it.
crazy. Yeah,
And we might be looking at a third straight Jokic MVP if they're going to be a 65 win team. I
yeah.
really hate to say that because I don't think he deserves it over guys like Luka, guys like Jason Tatum, and even
Luka's
Giannis.
in a tough
But
spot.
he's not
Oh
going to be.
man,
He can't win MVP when his team's barely over 500. I'm just going to be honest. So unless they make a deal, which I think they will, we're seeing the media pressure for it. And that where there's smoke, there's fire. That's kind of how the NBA goes. So they're either
right.
making a deal this year or next. That's going to really help Luka with the offensive output. So, and I'm as a Bulls fan hoping it's Zach LaVine because I'm ready to move on.
Yeah, no, that's a fair take. Um, I
But
actually have an interesting one. I think you should hear it. You're not gonna like it, but I think you should hear it. Ben Simmons' trade value is, I feel like, still very low.
okay,
What they need is a guy that will take the ball, out of Luka's hands. Ben Simmons has been able to do that. The Mavericks already have a bunch of shooters around Luka when they're on, but that's really all they are is just catch and shoot. That's
I
the
just
biggest problem.
I
Send
just
Dinwiddie and Picks and a bunch of guys for a Ben Simmons player. Give him defensive versatility as well. That's, I feel like, something that isn't talked about much that this team really lacks.
the
And
problem
they still have Christian Wood to play with.
I think my problem with that is that Ben Simmons, the Mavericks right now need a guy, a scorer who can kind of like DeJounte Murray for the Hawks, right? Somebody who can take the pressure off of Luka to score 35 points every single night, if they're going to win. Does that make sense? So, and I
That
don't
makes
think
sense,
I
but
don't know
DeJounte
if
Murray is definitely more of it. He's like, yeah, really good as an offensive player, but what he provides defensively, I feel like needs to be
so, but like
shown too, because like that was the main issue with Trae Young.
agreed fully. But I think there's another ball dominant scorer, and I don't think that Ben Simmons provides that. I think he provides very good. What am I looking for? Defense, but I just actually don't like Ben Simmons at all. So maybe I'm biased.
That's a fair take.
But yeah, yeah.
So
That's all I got.
no, we don't have to stay too much on that topic. I just thought the idea was interesting because I'm seeing a couple Ben Simmons ideas or trade ideas float around. One was for Bradley Beal, and I was like, that's rich.
I think Beal would be an interesting fit in Dallas.
Yeah, but to match that salary for Beal, I feel like they'd almost have to strip the roster.
It's fair.
And then it's like a matter
I don't think they want to give up picks either. I don't think they do.
Right. It's not really what the Mavericks are known for. They're in a tough spot. They really are.
Yeah,
I
would
don't
agree.
really have a lot of good assets to move other than Christian Wood, but like it's what they've kind of.
I think they just got to hit
every year
on a mid first round pick. They really do. They just got to hit on one of those
so badly.
Maybe get a guy in free agency.
Yeah, somebody of value, but we can keep things rolling here. I know we switched up the order a bit today. Which, I'm looking forward to. We're gonna lead with not next segment. We're gonna go with who he played for, and we'll end things off today. Obviously, with better or worse. We never want to not do that. But do you have a guy ready?
I do.
I do. Okay.
I do have a guy.
We can get right into it.
Locked and loaded. I've got two guys that I prepared last week and didn't get to use, so I'm using them this week. So, all right.
Cool stuff.
This guy, no years and no position because it's not football. So This guy was drafted by the Denver Nuggets. He was then signed with the New York Knicks, and then spent time with the Thunder, and then spent time with the Rockets, the Blazers, and the Lakers.
Bro, you did not just use Carmelo Anthony.
Yeah, I knew it was going to be too easy. I knew it was going to be too easy when you prepared him for who he played for, or for better or worse. So sneak peek, we will be doing better or worse Carmelo Anthony tonight. But yeah, I had it prepared for Luke, and didn't have much time to find some Christian-esque. The next one should be a little tougher, but yeah,
that is rather unfortunate. I might have had Carmelo Anthony. Is
no
one of my
way.
Guys. Okay, that is okay.
All right, so that explains why you got it so fast. There, we got an
yeah, that is okay. So I will go to this player who was drafted by the Thunder in 2009, stayed there for 3 years, then spent a long time with the Rockets, called 8 years.
Oh, come on now. Come on. It's James Harden.
I'm panicked, man. I did not I was hoping I could sneak somebody by you.
We are on fire today. All right. Let me pull this guy's page up. We are on fire. I love to see it. All right. This guy drafted by the Chicago. I'm going to go so fast. Drafted by the Chicago Bulls. Then spent time with the Knicks. Was traded to Cleveland. Then he signed with Minnesota, Detroit.
Derrick Rose.
Dude. Honestly, what's crazy about D Rose is I forget about him in Minnesota every time. And he was actually
I remember his 50-point game.
That's all I remember, yeah. But I just feel like he's been in Chicago and New York this whole time, and he was in Detroit as well. And I don't remember Cleveland at all. But
yeah, no, that's all right. That was a pretty good one. The first 2 years, this guy, he's with the Pistons. I believe he was drafted there. Then from 2016 until 2021, this guy was with the Nets. Was with the Wizards last year, and then now is currently with the Mavericks.
Is it Dinwiddie?
It is Dinwiddie.
Hey!
I thought the Pistons would throw you off.
It did. No, it did. I totally just guessed off the Nets.
Yeah.
The Nets.
Dang, man. I shouldn't have talked about him earlier. That is on your mind. Because the beauty with the Mavericks is they have so many journeymen, and especially if I led with Pistons, like Reggie Bullock may come into mind. Somebody dumb like Dwight Powell or even Christian Wood. But no. Dinwiddie it was.
All right. I got one off the cuff for you. Want to let you know
I don't have any more.
Has not played since COVID. But you do know this player.
Oh, dude, if this is Enes Kanter.
It's not Enes Kanter, relax.
I was going to be so upset.
Wow. First played with the Denver Nuggets. He then spent some time with the New York Knicks, and then spent some time with the Cleveland Cavaliers.
J.R. Smith.
Unbelievable, dude.
The Lakers,
Unbelievable.
Dude. I didn't
even get to the Lakers.
Yeah, but once the first three, I was like, I have a JR jersey in the background. I don't know. I'm pretty sure you can see it.
I can see the Steph jersey.
I did tab up. There it is.
Between
the girly and Antetokounmpo, yeah. Avid J.R. Smith fan here, so that was a good try trying to sneak it past me.
Better.
I guess he said Shumpert, man. If you said him on Shumpert, I would have.
Hey, Shumpert's on those TikTok podcast clips telling good stories, man. So shout out
he does have some good stories.
He's a good storyteller, man. He really is. I'm gonna be honest.
It's entertaining, really entertaining.
All right, so we kind of botched that today. We're not botched it. We just all were on our game, I guess. So
and having the
and we didn't have Luke to bring the
right
third stringers that
exactly.
I'll
extend it. I don't think he would have gotten those guys made us right away. No, again, no offense to him. The
Well, you
hard one
did
obviously would
no,
have been
no. The
instantaneous,
problem was
but
that you brought
Melo,
up
yeah,
the problem was that you brought up Spencer Dinwiddie when we were talking
that too.
three
Yeah,
minutes
both my
before we
picks were
did that.
chalked like
Um,
that. Like,
yeah. So,
uh,
all right. Here's an idea, and you proposed this to me. We briefly touched on it, but so just some trade ideas as we're approaching the deadline. I mean, we touched on it briefly, but I've got one that helps out Dallas a little bit. And I kind of was talking to you about it before the podcast a little bit, but Buddy Hield and Miles Turner have really been shopped around the league a lot now for, I feel like, a number of years. And
oh yeah,
we talk about Levine to the Mavs and all this stuff. I think that this could be a pretty decent fit for the Mavericks as well, especially if they got both of them. So if they got
mm-hmm.
one of them, I think both of them would fit well. You could pair Miles Turner with Christian Wood in the front court. And I personally think that would work. I could see some people disagreeing, but maybe you'd swap them, but I don't think they're going to swap Christian
I
Wood
think it would
for
work.
Miles
Yeah,
Turner. I think it would work. And then I think Buddy Hield is almost exactly what I've been describing in terms of somebody to provide just a little boost of offensive output. I think ideally you would keep Dinwiddie in the situation as well. So I don't know how
agreed.
the exchange would work, but ideally for the Mavericks, you would find a way to get one either Buddy Hield or Miles Turner or both, and find a way to keep Dinwiddie and Wood. That would be very hard to do, but I would prioritize Dinwiddie over keeping Dinwiddie over Wood for that, because you're getting Turner back. So, what are your
Mm-hmm.
thoughts? I mean, I'm just kind of spitballing, but I feel like these guys have both been shopped around a little bit, and this provide just obviously more shooting. But I think that Buddy Hield's just a little more capable scorer than anybody else on that Mavericks, backcourt besides Luka.
Yeah, and I could see the trade going through if they did give up Christian Wood, just in the sense that when I'm looking at the Mavericks roster, there's not you may throw in like Josh Green, some just like prospect guys, because I know they don't like to give up a whole lot of picks, but they'd probably have to in this scenario. Not a lot, but
I would agree.
probably a first. And then I do think you would include Christian Wood in the sense that he's a little bit older, definitely older than like Tyrese Halliburton, but he would fit that timeline. They do still need a center once you ship out Miles Turner. Sabonis is gone. So I think Christian would play very well with Tyrese Halliburton. And I think you would still be okay with the Mavericks. Like they still have Maxi Kleber, they still have Dwight Powell, they still have size. And personally, I don't think they're even really utilizing Christian Wood in the right way anyway. He's a guy that can be capable of scoring like 20 a game, getting those post touches, and they don't really utilize him that way. Miles Turner is definitely more better as like a spot up guy than Christian Wood. Buddy Hield is the perfect spot up guy. And so to have him kind of alleviate the pressure of being a capable scorer, like Luka at times is like, do I kick it to my Reggie Bullock or Kleba in the corner,
Yeah.
who's been ice cold all game, or do I give it to Buddy Hield, who I think since he's entered the league, the only person that's made more threes than him during that time was Harden and Steph Curry.
Yeah,
Like since
that's
he's
true.
entered the league, he is a efficient volume shooter. And as much as you sacrifice with him defensively, you gained it having Miles Turner on the floor. And
Yeah.
even Dinwiddie being a 6'5",
So
6'6"
so
guard.
here's the question then. If you're the Pacers GM, Christian Wood and some other, the deal centers around Christian Wood, Buddy Hield, and Miles Turner. Do you pull the trigger?
Mm-hmm. If I'm the Pacers GM, I would just probably need a lot back from Mavericks. I'm talking like to give up those guys. Talking probably 2 or 3 picks. Again, the likes of like Josh Green, whoever the Mavericks drafted this year. Um, Christian Wood, obviously. Maybe another, throw-in guy to match salaries, but it'd have to be a package, and I would consider listening because with the Lakers rumors, you're looking at a package of like what Kendrick Nunn with Austin
Oh, I
Reeves,
think they'd get more from
whatever
the
remaining
Mavericks
picks.
than they would from the Lakers.
Right. I think that's a better package. So
I think
I
Christian
would
Wood could be a
take that.
great contributor for the Pacers too, like you said, and that was something I
He
didn't
would.
touch on. I think that he
He
fits
would
better than
thrive a little
Miles
bit
Turner.
more.
I
Yeah.
really do.
Mavericks had him off the bench at a certain point. And again, at times I question Jason Kidd's coaching, but it works for this Mavericks teams at times, and probably the best for what the roster they have at this moment.
So if you're the Mavs, do you pull the trigger?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely.
You'd
I
be
actually,
willing
I
to
think
part with Wood for Turner, basically.
I
And
would. I would to get Miles Turner and just for the fit. Sir, just straight up, he's going to be a better defender. Is more of a spot up guy anyway. And Buddy Hield on top of it. Yeah, like I love the idea that you're going to play your lineups more starter minutes in playoffs anyway. I am concerned, like quite literally, with the Mavericks starting lineup right now. So you don't have to even get into depth. I don't think they can fix the depth issue on this team. There's just not enough time or assets during this season. But you can at least roll into the playoffs with like a solid starting five unit, and hopefully some guy from your bench steps up. Maxi Kleba shoots lights out or something.
yeah,
But that's just my take on it. I think the trade could be doable for both sides, and it would be great to entertain. Definitely not one that's out there, as we've talked about before this.
yeah,
You go and check NBA Twitter, even just
yeah.
Reddit, like anything.
There's some wild
Man,
trade suggestions out
man,
there.
it is entertaining. There's 4 or 5 team deals with it's absurd, but I have one that, hey, you know what? Salary wise, it's possible. If I'm a Bulls GM, boy, it would be tough for me to do it. But
Oh boy.
let's say DeMar DeRozan wants out. Let's say the Lakers will give you the house, as in what's left of the house, which Anthony Davis is not available. I mean, he's still got to get back on the court. LeBron James would clearly be untouchable if you're making this move. Everyone else is up. Pat Bev can go, Russ, Austin Reeves, all of it. For DeMar DeRozan to save this season with whatever they can do, him and LeBron just do their thing, put up 30 each a night.
I don't
get
think
some,
I'm going to be brutally honest here. I don't think DeMar DeRozan is. I think he's actually a horrible fit for what the Lakers need, because they need shooting, and that's I mean outside shooting, not mid-range shooting, outside shooting. Well, DeMar is a capable defender and a great scorer. What does he bring to the table that LeBron doesn't at this point? Right. But what I mean is, when you're looking to pair somebody with LeBron, who's going to be ball dominant, you need somebody who's going to be able to shoot threes. And the Lakers have proven they don't have anybody who can do that. And while I think they'd win more regular season games, all it's going to take is one team who has a strong interior defense in the playoffs, and it might be a sweep, man. Just going to be brutally honest. Even if AD's,
I like that you acknowledge that, like, it's more or less for them to save face for the season, as in like not be in the bottom of the standings.
There's just no long term. Like, if this is a classic,
it's better than Ross. It's a
classic.
Yeah.
Is it though? Because at least you can bring Russ off the bench and get
Russ
ain't giving you.
Ross is not giving you 25, 26 points of efficient basketball. Nah.
Off the bench is better than anything else you got, though, and you're gonna lose. You're gonna sacrifice some of your bench depth, I would assume. I'm assuming Russ is a part of this deal because they're trying to get rid of his contract.
Absolutely, that was the big thing.
So I think your bench depth goes down. I just see no long-term incentive for the Lakers to do this. With that being said, this is right up the Lakers' MO.
They don't have a long-term incentive.
They never have long-term incentives, man. They look at every season and they say, "How can we win a championship this year?" And well, it's been pretty successful, so maybe my philosophy is wrong. But as of late. Well, I mean, don't they have the most championships in the league history?
Might be the Celtics.
They're one or two. They're one or two. So, and the Celtics got like 15 of them for free with Bill Russell.
As of recent, it's been rocky. Wouldn't you agree? They got the 2010 chip with Kobe, and then they had a long stretch until they literally signed LeBron and traded for AD. Like, they had to go completely aggressive.
So you say that,
they got one.
You say that, but during that long stretch, in my opinion, was one of the few times in Laker history where they actually played the long game. And now we sit here and we talk every other week about how LeBron showed up and offloaded all of these incredible assets that are now turning into great players like Kyle Kuzma, Brandon Ingram, Julius
Yeah.
Randle, all perennial all-stars at some point in their careers. I mean, Brandon Ingram's the most improved player, arguably this year for the second time in a row, if you ask me. So, and we've talked about how much Kuzma has thrived outside of LeBron. So that, and don't forget about D'Angelo Russell and Lonzo Ball too. Like,
Yeah.
think about the guys that, and I'm not saying all of them would have formed this super team, but you talk about like look at the way the Warriors found success through the draft. The Lakers had the pieces, man. And we talk about Le GM blowing stuff up. I'm on the side of, I don't think LeBron has helped the Lakers at all, other than winning one bubble championship. That, okay, they won the championship, but I don't know, man. It's up there with the Los Angeles Rams conversation of how much do you really value one ring, because it's going to ruin you for the next decade.
Yeah. No, it's fairest take on it. Really, I can say it's just, is it a good deal? No,
I would not pull the trigger if I were the Lakers.
No.
If I was the Bulls,
No.
in a heartbeat. If I'm at the point where I'm finally saying this team is not going to work, I pull the trigger in a heartbeat. And
just get anything you can get.
Get what we can get out of DeMar, who's 30-something. Maybe get some picks. Take on Russ's contract, tank our games, and let Russ go in free agency. Move Levine for picks and look towards the future. And try and find a new core, because you really need to. That's the bottom line.
Plain and simple.
So, yeah, I don't know. I'd like to see it happen as a Bulls fan, but it won't.
Yeah. No, just good hypothetical ideas to kick the ball a little bit. I thought we'd had a trade at this point. I mean, we're pretty much a month away from the deadline here. Yeah, I know they all, it's most coming of the moves, they all kind of happen on that day. It's funny how NBA, people who manage multi-million-dollar teams do the same thing as just like everyday humans.
As me,
but they wait until the last possible second, like all year we'll be discussing trades. I get from like leverage and player value and like the kind of chicken game when you're negotiating of like who really needs to trade more. But man, I mean, they cut it close. Like, it's usually like the last hour, your phone's just blowing up. Like, oh, he's here. And
he's here.
I love the trade deadline. I really do. But we can divert, to our final segment of the night.
Or worse.
Yeah, staple of this show. And because, there's not, for basketball reasons, just it's an 82 game season. I mean, be similar if we talked about like baseball or something. Like, there's just so many games, not a lot of them always mean a lot. So bottom line, that's just what we do here. Is we do a lot of hypothetical. We look back on the past, and we're gonna do some all-time better or worse, which is different than the current better or worse.
Which we've done the past couple of weeks. So
nothing new, but just hey, we'll get right into it because we brought his name up. Both of us had him on our. I still can't believe that happened, man. Of all the people,
that's like the worst execution we've had on who he played for ever.
So poor, yeah. I just wow.
But, live and learn. Live and learn.
Yeah. Carmelo Anthony. Man, this is gonna be entertaining. And I guess we'll have to go back to the style of just rapid fire, or not rapid fire, but you get the idea. Like, I give you a player, and we.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Cool. I've got. I guess
I'll interject at times.
I've got protect. I put down 3 names, so we can do a mix of the style. But
okay.
I want to lead with this guy because I was very interested when I started crunching the numbers. Initially, I would think that one was much better than the other, but
oh boy,
I think I have to disagree with myself. So to kick you off, better or worse all time than Carmelo Anthony? Jeez, Reggie Miller. And I know we've talked about him before.
So this is what's gonna stink. I'm gonna go to bat for Reggie Miller, but I'm already in my head now. I'm realizing, all right, I'm gonna have to fight the uphill battle. The numbers are probably not against, or they're
So
not with him.
I just want to, before you make this case, because I knew you would, I just want to read something to you. Okay. And this was the benefit. Whoever posted this on Reddit, man, and did this, this is eye-opening stuff, man. If you ask me,
Oh,
Carmelo Anthony. Actually, we'll go Reggie Miller, three-time All NBA player, All NBA third team. Sorry, and a five-time All Star. Carmelo Anthony, two-time All NBA second team, four-time All NBA third team, 10-time All Star, and a scoring title.
Okay.
So you have the scoring title, twice the All Star performances, so a longer career of dominance. Um, Reggie Miller never cracked above the All NBA third team. Melo did that twice. Reggie Miller was on the All NBA third team three times. Carmelo did that four times. So, from an accolades perspective, Carmelo Anthony blows him out of the water, in my opinion. From a total points perspective, Carmelo Anthony wins. From a career average perspective, Carmelo Anthony wins. So, with that being said, please make the case for Reggie Miller.
Well, it kind of boils down to this. The Knicks, for a long time, tried to put the pieces around Carmelo. You can say the names that like didn't work and whoever. But I think Reggie Miller would kill to have Mari Stoudemire. I think he would kill to even have like Tyson Chandler in that group. Linsanity for a time. Like even role players, like he was playing with scrubs. Like scrubs. Like not dudes that before he was like he was old when he finally was getting like Steve Jackson and Jalen Rose. I don't even think like Rick Smith, who was like the number two guy, was capable of getting like a consistent like 10, 15 points. Like I'd have to make step, and I'm saying like efficient. I just watching it back in the day, you knew who was getting the ball, and it still didn't matter. I think and that's why it's so tough is because even at that time as well, all right, the
I,
all NBA teams and whatever, Michael Jordan, like Clyde Drexler, thinking of those like guys right off the top of my head, there was heavily influenced. Um, I just and the market too. Like a lot of that is media voting, right? So like, and New York Nick is gonna get a lot more votes in terms of like accolades and achievements than a guy from
okay, this is
Indiana.
where I'm pumping the brakes, man. You can't
I
just
just
pull
like
in media subjectivity into
it's
this.
valid.
No,
It's
it's not.
valid.
It ain't valid, bro.
It is. Clay
I would
Thompson had a
honestly say
whole
that
debate
Melo's
about
best years
this.
were in Denver.
Mm. He
It's
was probably like the
arguable. It's
maybe
arguable,
a
but
best
he
version
was
of a certain player that like could do it all. I think he's definitely the best, like in terms
so.
of his shooting
Reggie
ability was in New
Miller
York.
averaged over 20 points six times in his career and had a career average of 18 points. We're talking about being the bus driver. There's your numbers, right? Six times, never averaged more than 25 points. His highest was like 24.7 or something like that. And then
What's the
next,
90s? Yeah.
next is the 22. So yeah, Carmelo Anthony as a rookie averaged 21. He didn't average less than 20 points from 2003 to 2016. That's 13 years spending over 20 points. He didn't average less than 20 points until he went to OKC and was a part of that disaster big three, which we all remember. Oh, Melo's kind of old, like he's phasing out. Well, the reality is the year before that happened, he was averaging 22 points still on 47% efficient field goal percentage, and 40% from the field. Not as bad as I remember him when he got to OKC. It just was not a good fit. He was not like I
I
recall.
understand
I
that. Like
recall that being like when he signed with them. I was like, oh, that's never going to work. He's like 50 years old, and he was honestly still a very effective player the year before, at the age of 32. But Melo averaged career high 28 points. He did it twice, three times. Sorry, as I'm reading this again.
I know his numbers are gonna be higher. Like that's not news. But like he was drafted when Reggie Miller was retiring. Like that's it. That is not a shock to me. It's just I would have to go out of the way when it's like, oh, he had a couple like better accolades than Reggie Miller. yeah, he played in New York with better teams. Like he's just gonna get more circulation that way. And like Reggie Miller is you're even like you were with me on this like last week. You were saying like just like the eye test, like watching what he does in like clutch time and all that. Like
That's because we
Melo
were
got
comparing him.
grilled.
That's because who were we
Melo got
comparing
grilled
him
because he
to?
can't win in the playoffs on his own, even with superior talent.
So did
And like Reggie
Reggie.
Miller, he could. He beat the Knicks like on his
He
own.
beat him 1 out of 4 times.
It
One
was
out
still
of
on his
three
own. Melo
times.
just couldn't do it. Like that was his biggest
Here's
knock.
where my case for Melo is resting. If we were comparing him to even somebody who was a significant scorer who had an MVP or had a championship that they won, maybe as the second option at late in their career, and I can't think, a guy like Pippen or maybe a guy like that where it's like maybe they weren't the bus driver their whole career, but they've got the rings and the championships to back them up. Then yeah, I'm not a big fan of Melo's all-time case because he really doesn't. He's got the scoring title and he's got all these all-star appearances and he's all NBA, and he was a great scorer, but he wasn't much more than that, right? Reggie Miller scored less and won about the same, and we're relatively. I mean, maybe he's a little bit better defender, but Melo
That's
was a better
see, and
rebounder.
this is where I retaliate with. Are you going to tell me Dwayne Wade is a worse shooting guard because his numbers were statistically way worse than Harden, but Wade has 3 championships and one of them he went and won on his own. But like everything is telling
Yes,
you
I would take.
accolades,
No, yes, I would
MVPs.
say Dwayne Wade is a better shooting guard all time than James Harden.
Right. So, but all the accolades are pointing to Harden.
No, no,
Yes.
they're not.
So like in
Harden
terms of
doesn't have
regular
a
season,
ring. Wade won a ring by himself.
but you just said like even though Melo is
That's
worse
because
in the
we're comparing.
postseason.
That's because we're comparing two guys who don't have championships, and we have to go to All-Star performances and All NBA
Yeah,
performances
but
for
Reggie,
accolades.
but we brought up like Tracy McGrady, even like guys,
Well, then
Reggie
you're
Miller would at
no,
least
because then you're
step
talking
up.
about the
Like he's
injury thing.
stepping
You're talking
up.
about the injury.
No, Tracy McGrady was bad in the playoffs when he was healthy.
I take Reggie Miller
He
over
didn't
T
he didn't
Mac.
right. And
Yeah,
I'm for the same
and I'm
reason I'm
taking
taking
Melo
Reggie
over Reggie
Miller
Miller.
over. Yeah, and see it's I'm taking Reggie Miller over Melo for the same
I
reason I'm
think
taking him
on an
over Tracy
all-time,
McGrady.
maybe if we're playing a pickup game, yeah, I might take Reggie Miller, right? I might. That we'll get to that decision. But all-time rankings, I think Melo has accomplished more and was better longer.
If that's yeah, okay, yeah, he had a longer career and scored more points. Sure,
So, like the
I just don't think he's a
reality
better
is if
basketball
Miller
player.
gets one ring, I don't think this is a discussion. I really don't. Or if Melo gets one ring, I don't think it's a discussion. If he wins in Denver that year,
Oh, that
they
would
went
change
seven
my
with.
view of Melo if he got a
If he
ring.
wins in Denver that year, they went to the Western Conference Finals with against Kobe and went to 7 games. Right. This isn't even a
Good luck.
discussion.
Yeah.
If he gets drafted, and we'll talk about, I want to do this. Let's do a deep dive. What if he gets drafted by the Pistons? I mean, he might be better than LeBron all time if that happens. I'm just being honest. They might have won like 4 championships. That team, it's one of the
If they
biggest what
meshed
ifs.
well enough, that's interesting. But
I saw, and this is
the
off beat,
fit
but
would be
it was
entertaining.
Chauncey Billups on a podcast clip the other day talking about how the entire team was hyped because they thought they were drafting Carmelo and they thought he was legit, and they needed a scorer. That was their one Achilles heel, was they were so good
That's
on defense
so
and they did
bad.
not have an elite scorer, and they drafted Darko Milicic. And it's like, dude, wow, like what would have
Brutal
people
beat.
forget, man, how much that really matters where you get drafted in the situation you go into, right? Because it would have
Mm-hmm.
been, in my opinion, it's a perfect setup for Melo's play style. It really was. He could have been ball dominant. They had everybody around him could carry him on defense, and he could go score and be their best scorer. And that's all he needed to do. And I mean, Denver, they were pretty good too, but they had to make moves, get AI and have JR develop and all these things. But
Yeah.
offbeat, but good debate. I could see the Reggie Miller case. I really could. He's an all timer. I think he was on the top 75, and I think Melo was too, actually. But
I think he was. Yeah.
I think he was. But all right, we'll keep it moving. So go. Do you have a guy to spark some debate about Melo?
Yeah. Yeah, I do. Um, better or worse than Jimmy Butler? Bring him up a lot.
We do bring up Butler's just a hard guy to rank.
He
One of those
is.
guys. He just brings so many intangible values to the game.
Mm,
I think I have to stick to my guns here. If I'm going to take him over Reggie Miller, I have to take him over Jimmy Butler because otherwise,
that's
I mean,
fair.
I just have to stay. I'd look really hypocritical if I didn't. But Jimmy, at least, Jimmy is very similar to Reggie Miller, and then he was a bus driver for so long, and he's a great winner, and steps up in the playoffs all the time, and just doesn't ever quite get all the way, if that makes sense. Um,
Yeah.
so yeah, Carmelo for the longevity, but it and just the better scoring. But Jimmy brings a defensive aspect that I don't think Reggie quite did. Reggie was a better defender than Melo, but Jimmy is a top 5 perimeter defender in the league, in my opinion. Maybe not 5, but he's up there, and he has been at some points in his career. So
Mm-hmm.
Melo for the longevity, but this is. I just like Jimmy Butler, man. The answer's Melo, but
Okay. No. Just testing you. See if I could get you.
nah,
That's all.
I got one for you. We talk about the value of championships, perhaps one of the most overinflated championships in my, maybe not overinflated, but you get what I mean when I say the guy. A better, worse all time than Carmelo Anthony, Paul Pierce. So
Hmm.
I say overinflated,
Hmm.
but it's really
Hmm.
just the guys that were on that team that act like they were some dynasty and they really only just won one championship. I think it's hilarious when they hype that up so much.
You tell me, man. You
No,
tell
you
me.
got to go first, man. I came up with the guy. I came up with the guy. You got to go
Ah.
first.
All right. Riddle me this. Who would you rather have in a game of one-on-one?
Mellow.
Who would you rather have in their prime in your starting lineup?
Probably mellow. I'm not making a choice here. I haven't. I mean, you're the one supposed to be
I
answering this
I
question.
think this is a hot take. I have no good reason to pick Paul Pierce over Carmelo Anthony.
I have to be brutally honest. You're not going to get, you know, when it comes. I do value championships a lot, but Paul
I don't think there's a good
Pierce,
reason to do so. I am
I
not disrespecting what he did in his career, but I
I
just think like Carmelo Anthony is just better in every way.
I wholeheartely. I think I'm going to
He's
have to
Paul
agree.
Pierce was he's a smaller, slower Carmelo Anthony in a better situation. It sucks to say, but they are the headband volume scorers. Like this one played with the Celtics and one was with the Knicks.
Yeah, I think Paul Pierce. Well, in my
Oh,
opinion, the bus driver on that team was probably KG. I'm just gonna be real.
definitely the most
Um,
steady in the playoffs.
yeah, Paul Pierce, incredible scorer and a huge integral part. I think that if they don't form that big three, he might be looked at higher because looking at his numbers, they take a dip when that team came together. He was averaging 25, 26, and then back down to 20 ish um, after the 2008. So it's a little bit like, maybe he just didn't get the ball as much once they brought in Ray Allen and brought in Kevin Garnett. But
Yeah.
um, yeah, I agree. I think Melo's the choice here despite the championship. So for the record, I do that sometimes.
No, I'm glad you acknowledged that at least because that my initially crossed my mind. I was like, oh, Paul Pierce, like legacy, he's got a championship. Both are like good scorers, and it just like really started to think about it. And like, I feel like Paul Pierce is just up there because he's supposed to be up there. Like, it's not really because he's
Like
far away
like
better than a lot of
Like
guys.
Draymond said, you're not Kobe. You don't get a farewell tour.
Yeah, and he was very bad in the parts really since he left Boston. I understand he was old, but it just wasn't really good luck to watch. His decline in the end either. Yeah, no, I'm with you with the mellow. We're actually gonna throw it to a guy in his own draft class for this better or worse, different position, but I'm curious to hear your thoughts. Better or worse than Chris Bosh?
Oh, I thought you were gonna go D Wade. Oh
Oh,
man,
that would have been very interesting. It would. I would probably still take D Wade
I would take
just
Wade.
because. Yeah,
I mean,
winning that championship in 2006 is like,
yeah. So that
don't
answers
see
that
Melo
question
doing that.
pretty quickly. But Wade, he was mitigated by injuries too before LeBron came a little bit too, and people forget about that. But
Yeah,
mitigated is not the right word, but you get what I'm saying. Chris
slow down. Yeah.
Bosh, we talked about him before. Just kind of one of the bigger what ifs, in my opinion. He just chose to take on this third role when he was really a top five power forward in the league, and
Mm-hmm.
chose to seek championships, and I really respect that. Honestly, that does not go unnoticed in my eyes when a guy values winning. But I think it's Melo. Everything Bosch was good at. Um, Positionally, I think Bosch. I don't know. This is a good question. Who was higher in their respective position at their peak? Right, like Melo was never better than Braun, but was he the second best small forward in the league? I would. Was he better than KD? I mean, third maybe. And how
Mm,
high did
yeah.
Bosch get up on that list? Right, he probably wasn't Dirk, probably wasn't Timmy Duncan, he wasn't KG. So maybe he's 5, 6. I probably think of some more guys, but um, I think I'm going to lean Mellow here for the bus driver conversation. Um, and because Bosch
The
really
three
just
rings, or I'm sorry, 2 rings from Bosch. That doesn't
not the bus driver.
sway you, huh?
The ring conversation when it comes to and the bigger case you can make for Bosch's defense, but I think that Melo just did it for so long, so successfully on offense that it just overrides. Bosch just had a really short career. Obviously, played 12 years, but it's still for an all-time great 13 years, an all-time great. That's
But he
relatively
could have played
short.
more.
He could have
Yeah,
played a lot longer and still been successful. I mean, his last season, he averaged almost 20 points. So
right.
he was still a very good player when he was done, and LeBron had left, but he just, blood clot issues, and he was done. So very interesting. But I got to go Melo for. Yeah, I mean, Melo was up there in the top 5 players in the league, and I don't know if Bosh ever got there.
Yeah, well, that's a fair take. That
I'm
is.
assuming you're going to say the same because you love offense. So
Right. And yeah, again, I was like, who's a very good, um, Maya's like accomplished a lot in terms of like accolades, but was like not as talented as like Carmelo Anthony. And I was like, well, Bosch did do a lot. He got 2 rings. And like he actually is a very good player. He matched up close to Carmelo, but yeah, I wouldn't take him over him. No.
yeah, yeah. So we'll wrap it up. The other guy we have written down is Tony Parker, better or worse all time. This is very interesting for me. Did he win 5 championships? Was it 4? Was it 3? I don't even know. I need to look this up.
I think it
When did
was 3.
Tony Parker basketball
3.
reference? Um, Pretty sure it was at least he won 4,
It was
and he was
4.
the Finals MVP in 2007. So
That
um,
tracks.
that is Finals MVP may change my thoughts a little bit, but all right.
Hmm.
To kick us off, I've got a very, very, very interesting debate here when you talk about the value of championships and the value of just longevity, dominance on the offensive end. Um, Better or worse all time than Tony Parker, Steve Nash.
Oh,
So you've got a guy who couldn't get it done in the playoffs with an integral piece of
won an
perhaps
MVP.
the best dominance. Won 2 MVPs actually, but those are we've talked about how
Yeah, one of them
suspect
could have been
those really
Kobe's.
were.
Oh boy. Is this where this media like the media does have a sway? Like the Spurs are like probably the most like they still I feel like don't get talked about enough. Like that
The
team was so
media
good for
has
so long.
the media has a sway, but when you peel back the curtain, one guy, you know what? I'll let you make your choice before I make mine. So because I think
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think I
because
have the answer.
I know there's probably a very solid case for Tony Parker, and I'm trying to consider it. I really am, but You can't tell me Steve Nash on those teams would not. He won 2 MVPs. He was definitely a better scorer, in my opinion. Definitely more efficient than Tony Parker. I'm not saying that Tony Parker wasn't efficient. It's just Steve Nash was like on a very good level. Uh, I'm gonna go with Steve Nash. I don't really feel too great about it,
So what
and I
if
know
I
even the
told you
stats might
that?
kind of hurt me.
What if I told you that Tony Parker has a higher career points average than Steve Nash?
Career would explain that. Yeah, he didn't have a Nash at a higher peak, but he
Well,
didn't like he
Nash's
had a
peak
really
was
bad
in
season at the end with
2000.
the
Nash's
Lakers.
peak. Oh, sorry,
Wasn't the
that's
player he
Parker.
was when he was with the Mavericks, even in
Steve,
the early days of
I'm,
Phoenix.
I'm just gonna
Took him a while.
I'm just gonna push back, man, because Nash never
Yeah,
averaged
I'm
more than
listening.
17 points a game, and Tony Parker averaged over that from 2005 all the way, well, okay, 2005 to 2008, and then averaged 16 in 2009, and then 17, 18, 20 again following that. So basically, he averaged more than him almost the entire time. He was a better scorer. The case you can make for Nash, obviously, is Nash
The 3 ball is what I'm
the
really kind of
three
looking at,
ball, but you're forgetting about the assists as well and the
and the free
facilitation.
throws.
The facilitation and the MVPs are the case for Nash, but the reality is Nash falls into this weird category of I think he's got some of the most fraudulent MVPs, and I can't hold that against him. I can't, he won the award. They count, right?
Mm-hmm.
But um, bus driver can't get it done in the playoffs, and Tony Parker is one of the best winners of all time. And I think Rob Parker maybe has an edge on defense, but not big enough for me to make a case for it. And you bring up, I think Parker's a better scorer. Averaged 5 to 6 assists over the course of his career. They averaged about the same rebounds, and Nash averaged 8.5 assists over his career. But Parker never went over 10. Nash did that 4 times. But the reality is, I think Parker's a better scorer, a better winner, a better defender. Not as good a facilitator, and not as flashy and media favorite MVP, but at some point being an integral part of a dynasty in the same way that we would take Scottie Pippen over all of these guys. I think that applies to Tony Parker here.
Well, I mean, Scottie Pippen does as a player was just phenomenal too. I mean, a 6'9" powerful, say power, but it was more like small forward, at
Yeah,
that time.
but if Scottie Pippen had the exact same stat lines anywhere else and didn't win 6 championships, he is not regarded in the way he is.
I would agree. I would agree. I think his stat lines would probably be better, but
They
he
might be a
might
little
get
bit
more
better,
looked at in like the Carmelo Anthony light.
Yeah.
Um, no, that's a very interesting one. I'm gonna bring up one of your favorites. Better or worse than Damian Lillard?
Oh, I have him written down.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
I knew this would
man,
be interesting.
I love Damian Lillard too. That's the thing, but I can't do it. I obviously I wrote him down, so I already had my thoughts, but I'm going to pull up Dame's accolades. There's nothing there, man.
What's your criteria for like? Are you really just looking strictly at accolades? Because I know at times you'll bring up Knowles guys just
Well,
a better player.
when we're talking about all time rankings,
Yeah, I'm looking at like peak pinnacles of their career.
peak, yeah, the peak for a pickup game,
I'll
yeah,
I'll
I'm taking
acknowledge
Dame
Tony
out.
Parker was very good for a long time. I just think like
If we're talking peak to play a pickup game, yeah, I'm taking Damian Lillard. He's a better scorer. He's a game changer. But the reality is he's been stuck in Portland. He's won a Rookie of the Year and was on the All Rookie team. And he's been to 6 All-Star games. Tony Parker has 4 championships, a Finals MVP. He went to 6 All-Star games. He's 4 times All NBA, and Dame has 6 times All NBA. So let me but he was on the All Rookie team, no Rookie of the Year, but the Finals MVP. I think that's a wash. But look, you talk about like what's the goal, right? Like what's the goal when you want to? What defines legacy? Well, I would argue winning more than anything else. Usually there are other factors, right? We look at guys like
environment matters,
environment and stuff like that. And if Dame was on, if you
era.
swapped them, yeah, they'd be pretty good. But I have to just look at the facts, and the fact of the matter is Dame's loyalty has greatly hindered his legacy. So
Yeah, I'm gonna push back as we'd all expect here. Uh, just for just exercise sake, Tony Parker, was he ever even considered a top three, top four point guard at any point in his career when he was playing?
I'd have to crunch the numbers, but yeah, I think he was around the top five conversation. You know,
But nowhere close to being number one or two. Or honestly, wouldn't even say top three. I think there's guys in that time that were far better.
the point you're making, I would agree with, but I think that Tony Parker gets forgotten.
He gets forgotten, but I'm just saying he was never at a point where it's been. There was a couple of years. It was who's better point guard, Steph or Dame, and people were actually making the case Dame was best in the NBA. And
Well,
there's
I
never
think
been a point.
yeah.
I'm not saying it's accurate, but I've never heard somebody be like, when Tony Parker played in these years, he was the best point guard in the NBA. You don't hear it. It was just not
Yeah, it's a
him.
fair case.
He wasn't him. And I know you're like, yeah, swap two guys. Dame, I'm gonna say would break. Like on the Spurs, I'd probably break the league. Like Tim Duncan grabbing all those rebounds and shooting the way he was. I understand different eras, so you'd scale it back a bit. But even on I think the 2014 championship with Dame, oh man, it it would be a very interesting roster. I think they would definitely win more championships. That's a big hypothetical. And I understand what you're doing. You're like, shouldn't forget about Tony Parker. I'm not being like he was a bad player. He's very good.
I just
I
think that
just think Dame was like a
we just
MVP level
view,
player.
I think honestly, if you want to make the argument, you should make was Tony Parker on the All 75 team?
He might have been, man.
Because I know Dame was. And so if you
I
want to
think
make
he
that
might have been,
argument,
man.
that's, where I'm
That's
fighting.
that's why I'm not going to. I think him and Manu were both on it. And it's like I'm not taking away from him or even Manu as a player. It's
Tony
just,
Parker was not on the list.
but Manu was. Hey,
I
I
was.
swore that there was no way it was just Tim
Dame
Duncan
was.
on the top 75.
Kawhi was.
Okay, that's interesting.
Was Manu Ginobili top 75? He was snubbed as well.
Interesting, very. But that is a case.
That's
I
a
don't like to
case.
play into the media a whole lot because sometimes
I just
that
think
is
that
really all it is.
I
It's just a
value
headline.
I value playoff success, as we all know, more than you do.
Very
um,
astronomical. Yeah, I just think situations are very important.
Situations are very
Some guys are
important.
more set up
And
to
we're
win
talking
in the
about bus
playoffs.
driver conversation. I know he has the Finals MVP, but that was really the only year you could look at him like that. Otherwise, it was Timmy D and Manu, and
Yeah.
Parker was the third facilitator option, who was
They
very
had
capable
Kawhi and
scorer.
like those teams were loaded.
But the
They were
reality
loaded.
is, when it comes to ranking Dame, obviously the NBA thinks he's better than Tony Parker all the time. So maybe I'm wrong, but
He could average 30 out for like a year. Like Tony
he
Parker,
does have 30, and Parker never did.
yeah, if he could do
24.
that in a night, it was like make a
So
game.
yeah, I could, maybe I'm being swayed a little bit towards Dame here by the NBA's take on it and just the bus driver conversation. But the reality is Dame is just so. You look at, like, when you go to these all-time rankings, right? And you pull up like career accolades, and it's like, well, he's this great scorer.
That's the
Doesn't have
only
good
thing holding
scoring.
you back. It's like
That's
Draymond,
because
man.
that's what builds a legacy, man. That's what are you
If
doing?
that's what your view of legacy, like we all look back at Tracy McGrady, why? Because his legacy was an amazing basketball player. It wasn't. We all point out like the accolades he's missing, but in terms of like what their legacy was on the game, I don't think that changes. And so like when
That's
I'm
fair.
that
Look,
and that's
I'm saying I'm
yeah,
coming
it's
back. Like I'm giving.
I know
I'm coming
you're like
back.
oh, I'm getting swayed. I'm like I know why you're getting swayed because Dame's a better player. But that's that's it's all good. It's all good. If you're like no, these need to matter more, and I can respect that. But yeah, I just the way Dame can just go off for 50 and like it's just surgical. Like he doesn't miss.
It's fair. That's fair. We're moving
Tony
on.
Parker never had that ability. Yeah.
All right, I got one last. You know what? I got one last guy, but I don't know. You're going to piss me off when we talk about this. So Better or worse all
It'll be the
time than
last
Tony.
one. Yeah, we'll save some time.
Better or worse all time than Tony Parker. Gary Payton. The first one.
Oh, jeez.
I love pulling up these like 90s guys and just making you just contemplate life because they never should.
Yeah, it grinds my gears, man.
It's so
Because I think Gary Payton can be so overrated, but I think this is like just right of like
I'm just gonna go. I'm just
point
gonna go.
guard tier.
I'm just gonna be honest. I was first off, I was wrong about Dane. All right, I'm willing to admit when I was wrong. That was a mistake. Okay.
Okay,
sometimes we gotta argue. You gotta make the arguments, man. You gotta have debates. So I was beaten in a debate. It's the first time I feel like I've ever had to really admit that, but I was beaten. I should have done. I should have had a better team.
Oh, you knew Dame was better. You knew he was better. Like it's hard to say that.
It's hard to argue when the NBA themselves says he's a better player. So
it's fair, very fair.
But when it comes to Gary Payton, man, I'm not backing down, and here's why. Okay, Gary Payton is better all time than Tony Parker. He's one of the best defenders of all time, if not the best. Okay, perimeter for sure. I think he's the exact same scorer that Tony Parker was. The exact same. You look at their career numbers; they're almost identical. 24 points a game in his best year. That's about Tony Parker. He averaged 20 points more times than Tony Parker did. He has three more All-Star performances, 3 more All-Star appearances than Tony Parker. He's a member of the Hall of Fame. I don't know if Tony Parker's eligible for that yet. However, talk about what do rings matter? Well, they do matter, and that's where Tony Parker's biggest case comes from. But the fact of the matter is, Gary Payton, to me, is in a league of his own in a category, that being defense, and he's considered top 3 unanimously. And Dame does not have that all time, right? But Tony Parker doesn't have it either. And so for that reason, when you're one of the best ever at one specific part of the game, and you're that leagues ahead of everybody else, you're going to be better than a guy who doesn't have that. It's like the Rodman conversation. He's the best rebounder of all time. It's one of the 3 most important stats. He's going to be listed up there as one of the better players of all time because he was the greatest at one of the key things in the game. And so when it comes to defense, you're one of the greatest. And this guy, comparative to Tony Parker, was, the great player all around, great all around player, but does not have that one calling card. And, it's not like Rodman with Gary Payton, where Rodman was so good at defense and rebounding and so bad on offense. Gary Payton was not that bad on offense, man. Like he was. So
no, I can't wait for Rodman round 2. In terms of Gary Payton, yeah, I was kind of like, yeah, this is like a good ranking for Gary Payton. I did believe it or not, that he is a better point guard.
Hey, defense, yeah.
Okay. And actually, it is ironically, I knew he was better defensively, but I was looking for this. I'm like, all right, offensive numbers, thinking to myself, they averaged around the same. Yet, and especially in like Gary Payton's peak when, I don't know, he took Sean Kemp, and I love Sean Kemp. He's a very good player. His peak was very good. Took basically that dude with him to the playoffs, to the finals. Yeah, I lost to Michael Jordan. The glove couldn't contain him, but
nobody could.
Wow, offenses. I digress. Gary
forgetting
Payton,
that Michael Jordan was one of the other guys in that elite defender all time.
He was. He was, but dropping 45, I think, is more unstoppable. Gary Payton, in terms of like he's scoring, and what he was scoring like for his team was so much more valuable than like Tony Parker's casual like 16-17. Like when Gary Payton was getting 24, 25 in the 90s, that was like a third of the team's points sometimes. Like, yeah. And especially what he brought defensively. I actually think he's far and away. I would love to see him on those Spurs teams. I think they again would win more championships. It's a perfect fit. It would be an insane fit. So actually, really without hesitation, the only thing you can really give Tony Parker is like he won more. But even just the job that Gary Payton did in that 95-96 season. Or maybe it was 96-97. Either way, whatever the years, everyone knows what I'm talking about. You get to that stage with the team he had around him. Gotta tip my hat. Gets the nod.
Let's go. Defense wins championships. There we go. There we go. That's what we like to see for the team defense matters side of this podcast.
I pinpointed him, not the team. Sean Kemp was lack thereof at times defensively, but
no. All right, I think that closes us out. But yeah, that was fun. We'll be back next week, hopefully with Luke. He always brings a nice spice to the debates, a different take, different perspective. So yeah, we'll be back. We're heating up on the trade deadline. I always love always love my NBA Tuesdays, man. So it's been fun. We'll be back Friday for our Week 17 NFL preview. And before we do that, we do need to get our Thursday night predictions down. So who do you got this week? We got the matchup of – oops, I typed in Week 6. Sorry, guys. I need Week 17. Sorry.
Yeah, I was like 16. Yeah, 17.
This is 2021. What's going on with the NFL website, guys? Why are you making it so difficult? Oh, Dallas and the Titans.
Wow, yeah. Shows you how in gear I was for basketball. I didn't know this was a game. I'll take Dallas.
I'm going to take Dallas too. I think Derrick Henry's going to sit because this game does not matter he's dinged up, and this game does not affect Tennessee's playoff chances at all. So
aren't they sitting at 7 and 8?
Yeah, but they're not going to get a wild card. I don't think they can. They're not going to catch the Dolphins or anything. And so the only way they can get is winning the division. And mathematically, it does not change anything. What happens this week with the Jaguars or the Titans?
I did not know that.
So they basically they play the Jaguars in Week 18. So the winner of the AFC South will be that game. So that's why it doesn't matter.
I got you. Yes.
So for that reason, I think Derrick Henry's going to sit. And if Derrick Henry's sitting and Malik Willis is starting, this is going to be a bit ugly. So, yeah, I'm going with Dallas as well.
How about them Cowboys?
But all right. So we got that on the record. As always, thanks for listening, guys. Be sure to check us out on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, the whole shebang. Share this podcast with your friends. Send in suggestions via Instagram. What you think we should do for better or worse, or some who he played for things to try and stump the human encyclopedia. So, as always, thanks for listening, and we'll catch you guys Friday.
Yes, sir.